Welcome back to Telltale Videos. I'm Greg,
And I'm Emily.
and we're here to talk about the next in our Philip K. Dick series, which seems like it's been going on forever. This will be number 33 in my bibliography of Dick, and we're still in 1953. We're in December, we're getting closer, but we're still in
Almost over.
1953.
The next 20 he wrote in December.
No,
You
there's only a
asshole.
couple
No.
more.
Okay.
It's a short story published in the December 1953 Amazing Stories, which I happen to have a copy
Of
right
course.
here.
Because why wouldn't you?
Well, I just got it too. Just
Beautiful.
picked it up the other day out of
Beautiful
my mailbox.
illustrations. I also think we should add that story, by the way, to our to be read list. I'm not kidding. I'm very intrigued.
Okay. Um, so it was published in the December 1953 issue of Amazing Stories. Amazing Stories being the very first science fiction magazine, started publication in April of 1926.
Smells
And
like old
it's still
people.
going today in a format. It's not a published magazine anymore, but it's still around. And of course, I have it in this issue. I have this issue of Amazing. I also have it in Paycheck and Other Classic Stories by Philip K. Dick, which I've shown many times in the past. We're inching towards the end of that book.
Yeah. I also love looking through these just because the illustrations
I
on
do
the
too.
cover as well as inside. Like this one had pretty fun illustrations, a
Mhm.
little more detailed than some
I
of the others we've
absolutely
looked at.
love the illustrations.
Hmm.
That's why I've been buying as many of these as I can because they are so cool.
Yeah.
Most of them. 1950s astounding. Their covers were great, but their interior illustrations left a lot
Hmm.
to be desired. But
Yeah.
the other magazines, the ones that had illustrations, Magazine of Fantasy and Science Fiction never has
Yeah.
had interiors. The others that have illustrations, though, they do some really cool stuff.
Hmm. Yeah. I really like that a lot.
And I love this cover.
Yeah,
I
this
forget who
is
did it,
pretty.
but I love this cover.
It's gorgeous.
It is.
We might
It's
have to clip a
awesome.
little picture in there
Yeah,
of close
I
up of
got it.
it. So, but yeah, that's a gorgeous illustration.
Uh-huh.
Beautiful copy.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So The Builder by Philip K. Dick.
Well, here's the
Paycheck.
synopsis. It's basically a modern retelling of Noah's Ark, except God forgot to tell him that the flood was coming, so he never collected the inn. That's it. That's pretty much it.
Mm-hmm.
But in more detail,
Mm-hmm.
with spoilers, this guy is building this boat in his backyard, and it's basically become his obsession. One of his children is helping him, like blindly, just doing stuff and whatever. And his wife is just getting exasperated because he's like starting to take off work and stuff for
Mm-hmm.
this.
Mm-hmm.
So he's been building this boat. His neighbors are all making fun of him. He doesn't really have a goal for the boat. He just feels compelled to make it.
Mm-hmm.
And then one day one of his neighbors even pointed out, like, there's no engine or anything. How are you gonna run it? Like, what are you gonna do? And he's like, oh crap. But the entire time he's just puzzling over himself. He's like, I don't know why I have this compulsion. I don't know why I feel like I have to do this. I don't know why I'm getting so sick of people and just wanting to like draw away from all of them and just stay with my family and just build this frickin' boat. And then the rains come. And that's how when the story ends. Like literally the rains come and he's like, "Oh, that's why."
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's basically a more modernized retelling of Noah's Ark.
Yeah.
I wasn't super impressed with this story.
I wasn't either. I
Yeah.
think so far, I think this is the weakest story
Mm,
we've read by Philip Dick.
I would agree.
Even so, it was an enjoyable
Yeah,
story.
it was still very entertaining, but it wasn't like super it did not impress me as much of as some of his other stuff did.
Yeah.
So this was like a story to pass the time, it felt like.
Mm-hmm.
Just
But it's definitely a typical 1950s science fiction short story
for sure.
with the kind of twist
Hmm.
and the bit of irony in there.
Yeah, where you're wondering how when does this become science fiction?
Yeah.
Until the very last line.
Well, it's more fantasy than
Hmm.
anything, but that's still appropriate for the magazines at that time.
Yeah.
They were publishing a lot of fantasy,
Yep.
and the science fiction writers were not averse to writing Twilight Zone style fantasies like
Hmm.
this. And it is kind of interesting, what if it did happen today?
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, Noah got visions that he needed to build this ark.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Yeah.
that drove him,
Yeah.
but he wasn't 100% clued into what
Yeah.
he was doing this for either.
Yeah. And he
You
was
know,
just as
he just knew
ridiculed.
God wanted him to do this.
Yeah.
And so what if somebody just had some compulsion all of a sudden that they needed to build this thing?
Yeah.
You
Like what
know,
happens?
and what happens in this story is
It's
pretty
like
much.
Bruce Almighty or Evan Almighty. Have you seen those movies at all?
I've seen Bruce Almighty, but
Yeah.
it's been years.
Evan Almighty is basically you're building an ark
Okay,
in modern times. So it kind of felt like that was the source material. This was the source material for that story,
could be.
so to speak. But
Hmm.
yeah, it was interesting. Like
Yeah.
I liked the relationship between the youngest son and the father, where the father starts having this realization that his youngest son is literally just doing it because dad's doing it, and it's
Hmm.
important to dad. And
Hmm.
like that blind following,
Hmm.
like that blindly following disciple that he has in his son,
Yeah.
and wishing he had more of an explanation. I kind of liked that little dynamic, and even though the story was short, I felt like that was very poignantly done
Hmm.
to be like, this is, sometimes you just follow because you're trusting that someone knows something you don't.
Hmm. But also, it also brings up that, we don't have evidence that stuff in the Bible is real.
Hmm.
We don't have hard scientific evidence proof in court that any of that stuff is real.
Hmm.
But
Or any mythos for that matter.
yeah,
Hmm.
but you can't help but wonder, what if it is?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And so what if something like that did happen today?
Yeah. Well, I think it's interesting too when you start thinking about. So Noah's a character also in one of the oldest pieces of literature we have, which is the Epic of Gilgamesh.
Hmm.
And those are cultures that are not exactly close to each other.
No.
They would not have intersected very easily.
Hmm.
So there is kind of that little like, huh, interesting. Or like how we have a lot of cultures that do have a great flood story. So there is this shared experience in trying to explain it. I think that's always very interesting to ponder as well.
Yeah.
We have a lot of these, or like even similar philosophies within religions. Like there's a lot of correlations between Christianity and Buddhism and
Hmm.
Judaism. The three of them have very common philosophies
Hmm.
in a lot of respects,
Hmm.
but enough different that they're not exactly the same.
No.
So I just think it's interesting when you have these myths, but they tend to cross over.
Yeah.
Or like Cinderella stories. Every culture has a Cinderella story. I think that's interesting too.
Hmm.
So I just think it's very cool to kind of have these correlations where it does make you wonder, like, oh, maybe it did. Maybe it would. Maybe it could again.
Hmm.
What does that mean? What would that look like?
Hmm.
Would we answer the call? Or would we just think we're crazy?
Yeah. Like the neighbors do in the
Yeah.
builder.
Yeah.
Guy's nuts.
Yeah. Well, even he feels that way. Like he's like,
Yeah.
I have no idea why I'm compulsed. Like I don't know what I'm doing. I just know I have to do it. Like it just has to exist. But I think it also speaks a little bit to how artists feel, the compulsion to create,
Mm-hmm.
even if it's not useful or even if it's not, gonna be loved by everybody, that compulsion and desire to make and do
Yeah.
things and create. I think it speaks a lot to that too.
Hmm.
I think I like the story better than I thought I did.
Well, it also speaks to theoretical science,
Yeah.
pursuing knowledge that you really don't know if anybody's ever going to have a use for it,
Mm-hmm.
but you still want to know. And so you still keep digging, but why are you doing it?
Mm-hmm.
What's it for?
Yeah, it might be a dead end, but
Mhm.
you don't know until you actually hit a
And
dead
your
end.
theory might be completely wrong,
Mm-hmm.
but you don't know, so you keep going.
Yep.
And someday, long after you're dead, somebody is actually able to make some kind of machine based on
Mm-hmm.
what you did.
Mm-hmm. Or improve upon your idea in a manner that gets a theory to become a law.
Hmm.
Yeah, I think that's really cool.
Hmm.
So yeah, an enjoyable little short story. I think it took me like 10 minutes to read.
Yeah.
Takes no time at all, so if you're a busy lifestyle person but want something quick and fun to read, you can find PDFs of this particular publication online.
Mm-hmm.
It's out there.
Or you can find copies of Paycheck.
Yeah! I'm Philip K. Dick.
Actually, this particular story is public domain, so
Oh, nice.
I believe you can get it out of Project Gutenberg or
Yeah.
something like that.
Download it for free. Have access to it. It's a pretty little read.
Mm-hmm.
Fun little adventure.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I really don't have more to say.
No,
This was
there's not that
it was
much
so short
to
and there
say
wasn't
about
much
it.
to say.
And it's not really a typical Philip K. Dick story.
Oh, no. His tend to be a lot more complicated than this,
Mm-hmm.
with a lot more dynamic twists and turns.
Yeah.
So this was a very straightforward story for him.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so far it is my least favorite. I liked it better than I thought I did, but it's still he has plenty that I like more.
Yeah.
So,
So, what did all of you think about The Builder if you've read it? If not, go read it, come back, leave comments in our comments section about The Builder, what you think of this story and Philip K. Dick's early work.
yep.
And hit the like button on this video, hit the subscribe button for our channel, and come on back for a lot more Philip K.
We've
Dick.
got more dicks. What's
We're
the next
still
one? We've
we're
got so
still
many dicks for you.
we're still stuck in 1953.
We've got so many
This
little
guy.
short dicks.
We got two more for 1953. The next one is going to be The Hanging Stranger,
Ooh, hanging.
which was published in
And
Science Fiction
Stranger.
Adventures.
I like those words together. It's intriguing. Either that or I'm a psychopath. Anyway.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining us, guys. We will see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.